And now let's move on to the third and at the same time last part of our digital SABA event. During that part, we will focus ourselves on answering the question how to make production of mattresses faster. In order to give a proper kickoff for that conversation, we've invited two specialists in that subject, experts who are going to help us to deal with some kind of questions. The first one is Frederick Loward, Managing Director at the European Bedding Industry Association. And the other one is Ryan Trainer, who we already met during the previous conversations. And we are going to focus on trends and developments in the mattress market currently. Let's start from the subject which is still on the table, despite of the fact that we are living in almost post-pandemic world. It has been very difficult and challenging times for all of us, mattresses producers, but also suppliers. And it has affected many aspects of, at one side, demand, but also the supply chain. What do you see right now as the main challenge, and what kind of impact did it have on figures over last year? So maybe we'll start from you, Frederick.
Okay, thank you. We see indeed that consumption in Europe is rather stable the last 10 years. We see in Europe that around 45 million mattresses are being sold annually. If we take a look at it, that means of the total world production, the EU represents about 20% of the total production, while in the past, the European part was a bit bigger. 10 years ago, we represented about 25% of the total production. But still, COVID has had an impact on European business. But what we see is that the bedding industry, the mattress industry, has responded quite well. They have done, apart from a couple of weeks where retail and companies had to close down, they have done a reasonably good job. A lot of companies were able to present a good year, 2020, and the first half of 2021.
Okay, great. And are you also expecting that this trend is going to be maintained in coming months/years? I know that it's a question worth of, and the answer worth of millions most probably, but what's your prediction?
When we listen to the experts on this, they say that in Europe, mattress production and mattress consumption will continue to increase, to increase with 3%, 3.5% this year, and even a bit more early next year. But of course, there are some challenges. We see prices of raw materials, supply chain problems, and it remains to be seen what the impact of that will be. Mm-hmm. But let's say that our industry has responded quite well to the COVID crisis, at least a bit better than some of the other sectors. And we're quite positive that this positive trend will continue.
Okay, great. Thank you for the answer. And Ryan, how it looks like from your perspective?
Our perspective is almost identical to what Frederick just described. Aside from a few weeks in early March or 2020, when many retailers were closed and factories were closed, our market bounced back very quickly as well. I think that we're all benefiting from the fact that consumers were spending a lot more time at home. Mm-hmm. They were much more focused on maintaining good health and looking around the house to see what they could improve. And there was a lot of money in our economies. The governments responded in both countries, both areas, I think, by flooding the market with income for consumers. And as a result, I think we've benefited certainly during the pandemic with strong demand. We're hopeful that demand will continue, but now as the economy opens up, consumers are looking to spend more money on travel, mm-hmm. on other things now that they can get back into the world. And so one of our big questions is, will that mean that consumers will shift some of their focus away from mattresses to other products and services? We're also facing some serious challenges in terms of supply chain, employment. and inflation is hitting us hard as well. And logistics are a challenge for us and for all industry. So those are some big question marks that we have to worry about. But for the time being, demand is very strong, and we hope it continues.
Okay, both of you have mentioned about those challenges regarding supply chain. I mean, raw material shortages, increasing prices. If you would have to determine categories of raw materials, materials needed for mattresses production or everything around mattress production, where do you see the biggest issue currently? Maybe Ryan, this time you will start.
Okay. From our perspective, the biggest challenge is employment. We are having trouble hiring enough workers to assemble the products. Certainly, the raw material challenges are there as well, but they fluctuate from week to week and region to region, so it's hard to generalize. We've had shortages on basically every raw material that we need, from fiber to foam to steel. And it varies depending on the manufacturer's product mix, but also the moment in time and where they're located. So it's hard to generalize, but it's just a real challenge for all of our manufacturers. They have to really understand carefully what their inventory flows are, what their order book looks like, and try to make them balanced.
Okay, great, thanks. And European perspective on that one, Frederic?
Yeah, it's a bit similar. We saw that in Europe, the shortages or the difficult supply chain started with the foam supply. But it is now also the case with other materials like textiles, fibers, steel. It started with foam because, or one of the reasons why it started with foam is that a lot of these companies had to close down quite long. And at the same time, retail was closed, but retail could resume a bit quicker. So that means that there was a continuous demand while supply of certain materials was still down. And of course, when demand is high and supply is low, prices go up and it causes some problems. Another reason that we see is that the European economy rebounded a bit slower after the crisis, especially when compared to the US and to China. So we feel that some of the trade flows were already resuming before the European economy resumed, meaning that it was difficult for European companies to jump on the train because many of the trade flows of certain raw materials were already destined for another market.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for this comprehensive answer. And talking about the future, because future is something which we are looking forward to, we also want to sooner or later forget about the influence of COVID and sooner or later have all of those raw material situation and price increases behind us. What kind of main trends and developments in the mattress industry you do see currently? What the customers are aiming for, what they are focusing on? We already did talk today about sustainability and circularity, but are there any others which you do see on the market?
Well, I think that the patterns of trade in terms of the consumer buying experience is really one of the biggest trends that we need to watch carefully. COVID certainly forced many consumers into e-commerce, consumers that might not have otherwise purchased through the internet. Certainly, the e-commerce was a growing phenomenon prior to COVID, but it just skyrocketed because people were left at home and some retailers were closed. We've been tracking this on a quarterly basis, and it's very interesting. We're starting to see a convergence, if you will, between online purchases and brick and mortar purchases. We're seeing that online sales are trending down a little bit. They're still much larger than they were prior to the pandemic, and so it will be interesting to see how consumers respond as life returns to normal. But one of the interesting things that's coming out of this also is the consumer's appetite for box bedding. In the United States, at least, certainly box bedding is virtually the only way to buy a bed online, but in brick and mortar stores, more and more consumers are buying a box bed because it's easier to get home, and they're more comfortable with the concept. So To me, that is one of the lasting impacts of COVID, probably. We'll be tracking that to see if that changes over time. I think the other thing that's very interesting for us, and this is more of a long-term trend, is that younger generations of consumers tend to replace their products more quickly. We don't know if that's because they tend to buy at the lower price points, or if they're more conditioned to looking for new features. My kids go through phones very quickly.
Yeah.
I tend to keep mine very long, but we have a consumer that is being conditioned to look for new features, even though the product may not be exhausted, it may not be worn out. They still may want to replace it because they want to keep up with trends. So all of those things are factors that are affecting us and that we're tracking carefully, and I think will influence our success or failures over the long term.
Okay, great. Coming back, I do have one additional question to the second point which you mentioned, so bed in box and like a shift of the customers to that, which is obvious, to that channel in general, e-commerce, while pandemic doesn't matter if it's just only like about mattresses, but in general it moved over there. But do you have like an estimation, how was it before the COVID and how it is right now when it comes to e-commerce share in a market in US? Like some kind of data about
I don't have any hard numbers. It's difficult to measure because there's all sorts of different ways to buy box beds. We did a consumer survey last quarter, and we're estimating, I believe it was around 40% of brick and mortar customers are still wanting to get a box bed. I was surprised by that large number, but
it's really high.
It's very high. We'll have to test that, keep testing it to see if that was aberrational or whether that's a real trend. But it's certainly a big issue or a big factor in consumers' minds.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, from a European side, I can confirm that. What we saw here in Europe is that e-commerce grew by about 30 to even 40% in 2020. And interestingly, not only because of growth of the pure online players, but we have also some of the what is called brick and mortar shops that invested in online sales. So that was interesting to see as well. So it's not only the pure online retailers that are benefiting, but it's also investments that have been done at the physical shops, at physical retail that made that e-commerce has been booming.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. The main question which we do have over here during that session is how to produce mattresses like faster and more efficient. And of course, one of the road to that one is automation. And it's also extremely important for us being adhesive supplier to provide our customers products which will allow to produce them much faster. From your perspective, because automation in the mattress industry, distinguishing from furniture industry is quite advanced. How you are looking at this automation in the future? I mean, do you see a possibility of going further? How customers are looking at it? You've mentioned also Ryan, labor cost and in general labor issues which you're experiencing in the market. One of the answers is automation. How you are looking in general at the automation in the future world of mattress industry?
Well, automation certainly is coming into our businesses in a big way, a lot in terms of material handling. Assembly is more of a challenge in some aspects of our process because we are dealing with soft goods, and so some of the robotics needs to be much more advanced to deal with soft goods. We're not dealing with hard parts like automotive or something like that. So there are more challenges here. We also tend to have a broad variety of products that are produced by an individual manufacturer. It's often the case where a manufacturer won't know from one day to the next exactly how many of each type of product will be produced. So that also poses a challenge to robotics, to automation, to be able to have that versatility. But certainly our equipment suppliers are continually looking at ways to simplify the manufacturing process, remove fatigue from the worker so that the worker can be more productive. and also so that the workforce can be trained to do different tasks depending on what is happening in a given day. So we're trying to make it so that our workforces are more versatile, and automation is important there. Automation also is important for consistency of application of materials. For example, in adhesives, we don't want overspray. We don't want over application. We want the right amount so that it holds the product together, but that it doesn't delay the manufacturing process, and that it doesn't result in defective product going to the consumer.
Okay, yeah, you're right. And Frederick, how does it look like in Europe? In general, in Europe, we are like extremely advanced in automation of the processes. While visiting factories sometimes, like I can't imagine what's the next step, but definitely there is. How do you look at it? Like, is there this next step somewhere already determined?
Yeah, there will be next steps. Indeed, you're right that within Europe, automation is already a big issue. We're already far advanced, but still it will continue. As Ryan already referred to the shortage of labor, indeed that is an issue in Europe. Finding the right person to do the job is not easy. What is challenging, of course, is that a mattress has become quite a complex product. In the past, it was one material. Nowadays, different materials are used to produce one mattress. So that makes automation still an issue, and still work has to be done. But of course, it will only grow stronger.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining our session about the mattresses. You are real experts in it, and it was really a pleasure. Honestly, it's a pity that we don't have more time for continuing this conversation. Wish you, in the meantime, a wonderful day. Hopefully we will be able to meet during the next SABA, maybe not digital anymore event, but live next time. Enjoy the day, and thank you very much for your contribution. As Ryan and Frederick have mentioned in the end of our discussion, and as it was already raised earlier, automation is extremely important subject for mattress industry. It helps our customers to have a steady, repeatable process in terms of quality, but it also in terms of cost. And that's also something which Ovidiu Muresan, who just joined me, is dealing with on a daily basis. Ovidiu is my colleague working for SABA SE organization in Romania, and he's visiting customers and he's presenting to customers possibilities to produce mattresses faster on a daily basis. Correct, Ovidiu?
Hey, Eva. Yes, I'm trying my best.
Okay, so before we will move to the presentation, more insights into how we can produce mattresses much faster, I do have one question to you, just overall. What is the biggest challenge right now for customers when you are visiting mattresses producers? What are the questions? What are the challenges which they are sharing with you? And what are kind of problems they do have that also they are counting on you that you will help to solve them?
Well, Eva, based on my experience in the last couple of years, I have noticed that the manufacturers, they do have the equipment in place and the adhesive, but the implementation of those two, to make them work together, I think that's the weak point at the moment. So we, myself as a technician, we are trying to implement the adhesive in such a way that the manufacturer will get the most out of our products.
It has to be challenging.
Yes, it is, yes.
Yeah, especially with all of the range of the products which we do have right now present in the market. Okay, thank you very much, Ovidiu, for this short introduction. Right now there is a time for sharing with you all of the knowledge of Ovidiu and giving you full presentation about how can you make mattresses production much faster and much efficient.
So as I have mentioned earlier, the main issues on the market at the moment are how do we increase speed, efficiency, and at the same time to maintain the quality of the end product. One of the misconception on the market is that having an automated line and a automated press machine will slow down the whole process, and this is not true. If the all units are perfectly aligned and timed, by the time we do laminate the sheets of foam, sometimes we force dry them and we assemble them, the machine will do its job. Another way of increasing speed, obviously, is the transport due to the new technology, the produce and pack and bed in a box technology. The manufacturers are able to ship out their finished product and eliminating the drying time. In this image, we do see a forced drying step or an infrared unit. The purpose of this unit is to evaporate most of the water out of the adhesive and able the manufacturer to ship out the product. The next logical step in the whole process would be to roll pack it. Once we roll pack the mattress, we'll get a far smaller size and packaging, and the mattress can be shipped out directly to the consumer. In this case, it's a very good picture, and it does highlight the process of ultra compressing the mattress. This way, the mattress is rolled back, and the size of it is even smaller. This innovation enables the manufacturer to ship out the product straight to the customer, and it's very well suited for the e-commerce or online shopping. Also, another way of increasing speed is making use of the automated in-fit systems. This type of robots, they do tend to have 6 movements, but due to innovation on the market, we do see equipment suppliers which are trying to bring in the same type of equipment, robots with only 2 movements, and hopefully this will speed up the whole process as well. Also, another way of becoming faster and more efficient is the use of equipment which can multitask or can combine 2 different processes in the same time. For example, over here we do see this combi bridge. It's a bridge which holds a activator nozzle and a hot melt nozzle. In this way, the manufacturer is able to produce foam-to-foam mattresses and spring mattresses in the same time on the same line. Also, moving on, another very important aspect of the producing mattresses and the quality of the mattresses, the finished product, is the amount of adhesive we apply. We here at SABA, we do stress out that it's extremely important to reach a constant, very low adhesive coat weight. This way, we can ensure that the finished product is the highest quality possible. And in this video, we can see the correct way of measuring the coat weight. Another innovation which is worth mentioning, it's the ultra compressed mattress wrapped in paper. This way, the manufacturer does eliminate most of the plastic, and it's a great idea forward, especially towards sustainability. Yeah, that was the highlights of the whole of the presentation. I will be joining Eva probably for more comprehensive questions.
Indeed, Ovidiu, based on your presentation, some of the questions came to my mind. The first one is, you presented like a few technologies which are existing in the market or which are going to be introduced in the market. According to your experience, you are visiting customers on a daily basis. What is the most commonly used automatic technology right now in the market?
From the application point of view?
From the application.
Are you referring to like a water-based hot melt or lines which are automatic or manual lines.
Let's say in general, and let's divide it maybe into like the type of the mattresses, because of course we have to talk about like flat mattresses, sandwich mattresses, and on the other side we do have pocket spring mattresses. So I do understand and I do know the difference in the production process of those two. So let's divide it into those two sectors.
Okay. So to be in a very simple way, we do have the foam-to-foam mattresses, all different types, colors, sizes, and on the other side we do have the spring mattresses, which are spring mattresses or pocket spring mattresses, Bonell or pocket spring mattresses. We do see the hot melt being used more often when it's about pocket spring mattresses, and definitely water-based, which is the more effective technology when we are talking about foam-to-foam mattresses.
And in terms of foam-to-foam mattresses, because that's something which is also, as we learned today, a market which is still growing thanks to e-commerce, bed-in-box, and that's most commonly used materials over there, foam-to-foam. In terms of that technology, what's the most commonly used machinery for speeding the process up?
We do have the automated lines. Definitely, this is the best solution on the market if you're trying to reach a very high speed, production speed, a very high level of efficiency, and to maintain the same high quality of the product.
And what's the difference between the conventional and between like a so-called produce and pack technology? What's the difference for us as an adhesive supplier, and what we have to take a closer look at, and what's the difference for the producer in the end?
Well, the main difference between the mattresses is that some of the mattresses are coming in standard size, and the other ones can be rolled back, or they can be compressed in a very small size to be shipped out to the customer. So depending on the manufacturer and the way they are orientated, their business is orientated, we do provide water-based adhesive, which we call it standard rollable adhesive. With this type of adhesive, they are able to produce mattresses, pack them after the drying time, the necessary drying time, and then ship them out.
And just to interrupt, you've mentioned during the presentation that extremely important is measuring the coverage. And you've mentioned that we can go really low in case of some of the circumstances with the coverage. What does it mean really low? Okay, so if the right product is used with the right equipment, SABA does at the moment experiences around 40 grams per square meter. Wow, that's really low.
Yeah, that's a very low coat weight, and that's achieved as well. I think it's very important to be mentioned. It's achieved with the automated lines, so no human interaction there at all, which means the speed is very high. And another technology which is, I think, it's far superior and it's up to date at the moment. It's the thermoactivated or the forced-to-dried adhesive technology.
And what's the advantage and what's the disadvantage? And
we do see a very high demand towards this technology at the moment. The advantages are that the manufacturer can produce and pack straight after, and the finished product is a very compressed size, a very small size, which is easy to be handled by the manufacturer. It's very easy to be manual handled by the consumer. So yeah, just benefits.
Okay.
Talking about disadvantages of the thermoactivated adhesive,
I can imagine that there has to be like a really specific type of the adhesive just to provide recovery of the foam afterwards.
The main disadvantage is that it's a specific product and the implementation of it has to be done carefully. And this is the reason why we at SABA, we work in very close contact with the equipment providers to meet the manufacturer's expectations. Because it's one thing to have the product and the machinery in place, but it's a completely different matter to make those two work together.
Okay, and looking at your presentation, we also did see many ideas for the future, like combining few technologies, like few bonding technologies, few adhesives in one machinery. Do you see like a big advantage of that one for the future, and what can it bring to customers?
Yes, yes. The whole trend and the whole purpose of us technicians, the manufacturers, is to meet the customer's demand. And they are continuously demanding new products, new technologies in a shorter period of time. And also very important for the manufacturer is to be as competitive on the market as possible. So this means very high efficiency. The efficiency and the speed, yes, they are possible. You can reach them, but it does take our support, to implement the adhesive properly.
Okay, we are talking over here like we are representing SABA, adhesive producer, and we are responsible for supplying our customers with bonding solutions. But a lot of in this conversation, we are talking about machinery producers. How on daily basis the cooperation looks like? I mean, I can imagine that one can't work properly without the other one. Is it also the case that when we are developing new product or machine supplier is developing a new type of machinery, that there is some kind of collaboration between
yes,
another?
Of course. The equipment providers, they are also focusing on how to increase efficiency. And I think your two questions are related because we do see a lot of initiatives on the market from their side. The way you can increase efficiency is by having equipment which can do two processes at the same time. For example, we do see an initiative from one of the equipment supplier which is trying to produce mattresses, foam-to-foam mattresses and spring mattresses in the same time. And all this with the special of a combi bridge which homes nozzles, spring activator and hot melt nozzles. Another way to increase efficiency is the use of software, for example. We do see an initiative from another equipment provider which is introducing the OEE and the PLT software. OEE basically means overall equipment effectiveness and PLT productivity level tracking. And the purpose of the software is to increase the efficiency of the equipment.
And to be able to monitor that one.
Yes. Yeah. We do. The quality as well is very important. By the way, we do have the latest innovation on the market regarding the quality of the process itself. We have the inbuilt controlled unit. This unit does provide real data, quality data to the manufacturer. So the manufacturer doesn't have to stop for checks, for tests. This unit can identify the common faults into the production line.
Okay, great. All of that sounds sometimes a bit of complicated. You are a technician doing this kind of job on daily basis, but I do have one general question. Let's imagine please. We do have a customer who's contacting you. They're interested in or starting to produce the mattresses or to level up with the production. You are meeting them, and then what's the next step?
Well, the next step is for us to understand what exactly the manufacturer is expecting from us. And that's the main goal for us. Identifying their needs, it's the first step. Once we learn what the manufacturer is expecting to produce, how to produce it, when to produce it, and where to produce it, then we are able to move forward with the process. It's a time-consuming process, but in the end, the manufacturer is the one who gains all the winnings.
Okay. So in fact, summarizing, if there is anybody on the other side of the camera right now interested in investing additionally in automation of the mattress production, or they want to level up with the speed, efficiency, and so on, Ovidiu is definitely, and other SABA colleagues, the right person to contact with.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Ovidiu, for this comprehensive presentation.
Thank you very much, Eva. And I will take the occasion to say thank you to our partners. We do work in very close contact with the equipment suppliers, and I will say thank you to C3, APER, Quarata, and Gruppo Grassi. Our partnership means a lot to us and able us to provide the support, the technical support our clients desire.
I couldn't imagine better summary when it comes to delivering adhesive, not as just adhesive, but being the package of the total solution for our customers. thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be your host today. Hope you enjoyed all of the 3 sessions which we prepared for you. In case of any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. In the meantime, I wish you a wonderful day and see you soon.